Welcome back to the Whiskey and Wilson podcast, everybody. This is your co-host, Tyler Yaw, and this week I am with
Chris Kellum.
And our special guest today is
John Hinnant.
Thank you so much for coming on today.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely.
And this month, as we've been sipping the whole time on this glorious drink in front of us, it is a blackberry bourbon smash. Check it out at Alcove Beer Garden. It is on special all month long, if not for the whole summer. Definitely check them out. Tell them that Whiskey and Wisdom sent you. And on that one, let's have a sip on this one.
Yeah, Chris and I clearly have been partaking already.
But yeah, no, that thing is just so clean.
Smooth, yeah.
Very refreshing.
We've talked about it before, like when you get a drink that like they actually make the tinctures and the syrups in-house, you can taste the difference.
Oh, yeah, we were here last week, and I had a...
Oh, yeah.
Oh, man.
They did a great job.
You got just one.
Yep.
It's like Pringles, man. It's just... But, yeah, so...
It's very nice. So most people know us. Mm-hmm. They don't potentially know you. So tell us about yourself.
Yeah, so I'm a Wilmington native, born and raised at Laney High School in 1989.
Shout out.
Yep. About a week and a half after I graduated high school, I took off to Lees-McRae College, and I did like a 10-day program. Came back home for a week, loaded up the car again, went back up to Lees-McRae, started summer school. I was a walk-on the soccer team.
Oh, nice.
Wow. Okay.
So Mountaineer people, that was a crazy, cool experience. I was in way over my head. We were number 11 in the country on JUCO, junior college, my freshman year, and we finished 4th in the country my sophomore year.
Wow.
And I played with some rock stars. And in the inaugural year of the MLS, Major League Soccer, there were 3 of my teammates.
No way. That's huge.
And in fact, up until just a couple of years ago, Roy Lassiter was the goal scorer.
Yeah.
My job as a freshman was to chase him around in practice. And it was really eye-opening. But I have to say, as fast as that guy was, I knew when he was about to run, and I was 2 steps in front of him. And so he scored less in practice than he did in the games. But, man, it was a crazy cool experience. And then we shifted to a 4-year program, 4-year school, and it was really sad because our school went from being 1,200, 1,300 people down to about 600.
Oh, wow.
Because they cut the football program, and all of a sudden there was, we were changing accreditation, and so now we were no longer that step-up school. We were no longer the Mountains Community College. We were a 4-year college, and so then I got into student leadership and started an environmental organization, and then became student body president my senior year. We, through a volunteer program my senior year, we started in one dorm. We did a recycling program, and so a couple guys with trucks once a week would haul the cans out to the recycling plant. Oh, wow. And we didn't have an account. We were just kind of like a club. Yeah. And so the guy said, well, I got to pay you for this aluminum at some point. And so we, at the end of the year, I was like, hey, just cut the check to the school student life department. And it ended up being a pretty sizable check. Yeah. And because college kids do what college kids do.
True.
And
that's it. And love those Diet Coke cans.
Yeah. And so the next year, the school implemented a campus-wide recycling program. Oh, and so it was kind of a little positive input thing I left behind. I came back, worked 4 years at PT's Grill, the original, and then in 1998, opened a restaurant in downtown Wilmington called the Underground Sandwich Shop. The poorhouse is there now.
Yeah.
Okay.
Literally, I dug the stairs up. I dug up 4 inches of gravel and 4 inches of concrete that's on top of that floor you see now when you go in there.
Oh, wow.
I designed it. I did the recipe menu and recipe development and ran it for 6.5 years. Some of the best years of my life. Got to know a lot of people. I got real vocal, got real active. They brought parking meters in downtown, and turned out I was losing my mind over a menial issue. But like things like homelessness and parking meters, and suddenly city politics particularly became something that I was interested in because it was affecting my business. Yeah. And tourism was affecting my business, and the weather was affecting my business. And I was like, I've got all these things and factors that affect retail. And I developed partnerships and friendships with folks. In 2004, I decided to become a real estate appraiser. And you have to be trained by a mentor for a number of years.
Didn't know
or
that.
for at least for 2 years anyway.
Yeah.
And so in 2005, I sold the restaurant. One of the best things I ever did was actually bought that property, that condo, that unit.
Okay.
So,
yeah.
And so when I sold it, I was able to make a little money.
Right.
My wife had just had our second child. And so we were able to, with a little bit of sacrifice, a little bit of grit and hard work, keep her home with the kids. And so I was appraising. The market was wild. It was great. 2004, 2005, 2006, and 2007, I was still serving on the board at WDI, Wilmington Downtown Inc., and the executive director resigned, and the board did a national search. My business was going great, and I had a broker license as well, and I had this concept to open up a real estate shop.
Okay.
It was going to be the ABCDEs of real estate. It was going to be appraisal, brokerage, consulting, development, et cetera.
Oh, wow.
And so I was on the phone with my buddy who's an attorney who was also on the board with me, and he was letting me play 20 questions without charging me.
Yeah.
And I was asking all these about legal structure and setting up an LLC and doing all these things. And he says, "Okay, John, I got a question for you." And I said, "What's that?" And he said, "Have you thought about applying for the job at WDI?" And I said, "No. You said you were doing a national search, and that's what I'm counting on." And he said, "Well, we've not been real happy with the results, and a couple of us feel like if you would submit your resume, we'd give you consideration." And so we were in the middle of remodeling our house. We had don't ever do this. We tore the roof off of our house
Oh, wow.
and added a second floor. And so
Can't imagine that.
we started that. We started that the Monday after Easter, 2007, and it just so happened that we fell into a drought.
Oh, wow.
And so we only tore out the plaster ceilings in 2 rooms.
Okay.
Kept the plaster ceilings on the rest of the first floor and plaster everything else. And moved in with my dad out in North Chase. And I came home that night with 2 bottles of wine. And I just looked at my wife and I said, "We're going to have to talk this weekend." And my dad sat in his chair, kind of like the chair I'm sitting in, and we went out on the back porch, and he kept the back door open with the screen door so he could hear us. And so my dad was born and raised here too.
Yeah.
And in the 90s, he did a lot of downtown preservation projects on Front Street. He's renovated several buildings down there, and I've done some of that, in summers working with him. And so he said, I went to the bathroom while my wife and I were talking. He said, "So what are you going to do?" And I was like, I don't know, man. And so Monday, I was dressed, leaving for work, and I said, "What do you want to do?" And my wife said, "Hey, if somebody asked you to apply as a courtesy, send them your resume."
Yes.
And so I went in, and they said, "What would you like to see happen downtown?" I said, "We need a municipal service district to provide clean and safe, and we need a gigantic green space.
Yeah.
We need
Yes.
and we need to do a better job of helping these landlords fill these empty spaces." And they said, they came back to me 4 days later and said, "Hey, we want to offer you the job."
Oh, wow.
And so that was a Friday afternoon call. And again, I walk in the door with 2 bottles of wine. I said, "Babe, we got to talk." And so I spent that weekend diving into the MLS and looking at trends in market and real estate trends, and what had been a really hot real estate market. All of a sudden, we saw days on market increasing. We saw pricing coming down. We saw foreclosures going up. And then we went into the 2008, 2009 recession.
Yeah.
So making that move already with some benefits, which is completely unusual for an entrepreneur or small business owner, it was kind of a relief with little kids and everything. And my wife decided to stay home. And so I was there as the PPD building was going up. And so I really hustled on retailers and trying to get people open. It was really tough, but PPD had made the investment. And then in May of 2008, the community college did a $162 million bond referendum in the primary.
Oh, wow.
And I don't think they're allowed to do bond referendums in primaries anymore. They're just general elections. But it was a stroke of genius by Eric McKeithen, the former president of Cape Fear Community College, because that $162 million, about $145 million of that was invested in downtown.
Wow.
And so the convention center so the city and PPD struck a deal so that the city could buy the land for the convention center.
Oh.
And so they were working on getting that approved. And so the city had to invest a ton of infrastructure on the northern riverfront so that PPD deal could happen. But they built in the capacity for all that you're seeing down there now. They built in all this water, sewer, electric, gas, fiber. They built all that in back then. And literally all that investment probably propped up our economy a little better than it would have been.
Yeah.
So you had this public-private investment going on, and I'll never forget PPD, about the transition. They did this really cool thing with us. So me and Mayor Sappho loaded up a couple of trolleys, and we went out to PPD when they were out at 17th Street.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
And said, hey, we want to give you a tour downtown. You guys take a lunch break, and then we'll give you a ride back to your office.
Yeah.
Nice.
And politics is funny because, like you said, not everybody knows you. Somebody said, who are you, to Bill Sappho? and without breaking face, he says, I'm your tour guide today. Like he didn't say I'm the mayor. He said, I'm your tour guide today. And so, and then, they had, when PPD got open, the food trucks were just emerging, right? I'm pro-business. And they said, John, our people it's 3/4 of a mile from the PPD building to Market Street. So to get our PPD employees to eat downtown, we've got to either get a shuttle, golf carts, rickshaws. They had rickshaws at one point, bicycle rickshaws.
Yeah, I remember that, yeah.
And so I said, well, you guys have private property. Why don't you just have a food truck? And they said that became one of the most popular things among the employees. And today, the city has food trucks on the parking lot there, the old PPD building. And so I had a blast with that. 2013, I was really pushing the organization to take bigger steps. And one proposal that I had done, and I'd written a paper on it, a proposal was for us to step up and become the new parking partner with the city, like manage parking, so that we could use the revenue for marketing and clean and safe initiatives. And the board, I ultimately thought it was probably a little too ambitious. And so at that moment, I kind of felt like I'd peaked professionally in that job. I'd really built a lot of relationships around the country. I'd done keynotes for the Southeast Tourism Conference, and I'd spoken in panels at the International Downtown Association. And so I kind of felt like I peaked, and so I was kind of like, what's next? And I'd interviewed for a couple of other downtown jobs around the country and was a finalist in Florida. Wow. No, not Naples. I was a finalist in New Orleans. The people in Naples were like, John, you're in Rotary. Your family's there. The last thing we want to do is pull you away from your people. But finalist in New Orleans, and I don't think that would have worked out for me. Yeah. But the requests started coming in for RFPs, like, hey, we're looking for 5,000 square feet of office or 10,000 square feet of office. And so I was helping landlords prepare their proposals and get them off. And I was just like, said to my wife, I said, I think the timing might be able to move. And so I started interviewing brokers and the owners of real commercial firms in town. Yeah. And I was like, well, how's the market? Oh, we just had our best year in 5, and things are really looking up. We feel real confident. We feel positive. And I would always close the interview with like, well, is there a place for a guy like me in your office? Yeah, right. They were all like, not only that, we've got a corner office. We'll call you vice president. We'll do this. You'll be our downtown guy. And so I ultimately made the move in 2013 to become a commercial real estate broker. And it was about 6 months later, a buddy of mine came in. And he goes, man, I got my real estate appraiser trainee license. And I said, oh, that's great. And he goes, I need you to open up your appraisal shop again and train me. And I was like, yes. And so that's kind of my side hustle. Yeah. I do real estate appraisal. Truthfully, if I could make the kind of money as an appraiser that I make as a broker, I'd probably do that full time. It is such fun. The difference is interesting because in the restaurant business, you show up in the morning and you start the coffee and you start the tea and you start the soup and you start slicing tomatoes and shredding lettuce. And it was the same thing, man, every day, same thing. In appraisal, it's a different problem every day. Oh. And there's this touch of voyeurism. You get to see people's houses, You get to see bedrooms and bathrooms and design and paint colors and wicked cool swimming pools, man. I mean, I'm surprised,
especially down here.
I'm surprised more people here don't have pools. I mean,
see, I was told adding a pool didn't affect my house value, so I didn't add a pool.
So I did a study. I found that a pool can contribute anywhere from 6 to 10% of your value.
Interesting.
Now, that pool might cost you $50,000.
Right.
Yes.
But it's only going to add about $20,000 in value. Maybe. So 6% of your purchase, your value. Yeah. We built a pool in 2013, my wife and I, and it was a drop ship to the driveway. It was an above ground buttress-free pool, and we countersunk it 30 inches so that our deck comes to the top of it. Yeah. And I love it. I was in it today cleaning it. Anyway, when I started appraisal in since 2004, when I started appraising nationwide, we've lost 50% of our appraisers.
Oh, wow.
Through the recession, the economy, and we just recently came out of an all-time low of appraisal volume because everybody refied during COVID.
Oh, of course.
I was in a different house every day during COVID.
I'm sure, yeah.
That was one funny story. I showed up to a house in Leland, and it was the first time the kids had seen somebody other than their parents or their grandparents.
Oh.
And so as I'm measuring the house, going around measuring the house, they were running room to room and getting in the window and looking at me. And then when I got through the fence in the backyard, they came busting out the back door like, "Hey, what's your name? What are you doing here?" Like, it brightened my day for sure. So yeah, everybody refied while the rates were low. And then according to the National Association of Realtors, a third of all transactions are cash only. So they're not financing. There's no bank financing involved. So the volume's been really low. It's just starting to pick back up a little bit. But some of my clients are like hard money lenders and the We Buy Ugly Houses people, which they're good people. They do a good thing.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
And so 2022, we were talking off air a minute ago, but in 2022, we coming out of COVID, my wife was like, "Hey, one of us has got to do something." And so we made a run for State House, kind of got in late. A third of my money came in late that I raised. And people don't realize that absentee by mail voting, people are voting August 15th.
Oh.
So if you're running for office, you kind of have to have some materials out there and messaging, and you have to be in front of people.
Yep.
And so that was an incredible experience. My wife is one of the few political spouses that shows up to a lot of things. Mm-hmm. And she agreed to go out with me one day knocking doors. And because I was like, it's not a bad experience. You get your steps in, it's a pretty cool experience. And the first door that answered, I said, "My name's John. I'm running for State House. My wife Jamie and I are canvassing the neighborhood." And this lady stepped out of the house, shut the door, turned her back to me, and then only wanted to talk to my wife. I was like, "You're coming with me all the time." I was like, "This is awesome." But
perfect.
Yeah. And and she's developed so many new friends, and it's just opened a whole new world to a whole new circle of folks. And so in all this time, then we decided to go back again for this year for county commission. I think the overreach of the government and COVID and some of the foolish mistakes that they made, I just feel like we need people to ask more questions. It's just that we've created 2 whole new departments. And in that time, our county manager's not had a performance evaluation review. And a performance review is not a bad thing.
Yeah.
It's an opportunity for the commissioners, 2 at a time, to sit down with the county manager, have a confidential conversation, like what's working well, what's not working well, what are you hearing from the workforce, what's going on. And so one of those departments is currently imploding on a self-inflicted disaster, And so I'm just looking forward to getting involved. And another big part of my life has been in 2017, I joined F3. I don't know if you all know that.
No.
Fitness, Fellowship, and Faith. It's
Okay.
Founded in Charlotte in 2011, and it's now international.
Yeah, it's huge.
It's a free men's workout group. It's fitness, fellowship, and faith. And so we draw the men out with a free workout. And it's usually body weights, but we have kettlebells one day, and we have run days and some rucking. And I lost over 50 pounds doing it.
Nice.
And really changed my life around. It reinvigorated my faith. And I developed some bonds and some relationships with guys that, somebody asked a question one time, like, "Do you have any 2 a.m. friends?" You're in the military, you're in college.
Yep.
You have friends you can call at 2 a.m. You get married, settle down, you go to get a career, you get a kid or 2. Who are you going to call at 2 a.m.?
It's a sad but true statement.
Yeah, and suicide is a uniquely white male problem. 78% of suicides are white men.
Yeah. I actually just read that today.
Yeah, and so it became this thing. And so March they call Mental Health Month. And so we make it a point to have real hard conversations, honest conversations with folks, make sure everybody's doing okay. And here locally in our local F3, we've actually lost a couple of people to suicide. And and man, it is gut-wrenching, man. I mean, to see these brothers that you work out with and you do hard things with. And I turned 50 in 2020. And I made 2021, my midlife crisis was stupid athletic stuff.
Yeah.
I did 2 overnight endurance rucks where we covered 26 miles.
Oh, wow.
So 40 pounds on your back.
Yeah.
And then you're taking turns under a log or with sandbags or water bladders, and you're doing workouts all the way along the way. And
Jeez.
I mean, a burpee is a new animal with 40 pounds on it. I ran a half marathon. I did a couple of Spartans, and I did the Blue Ridge Relay, which is such a cool run. It's from the Grayson State Highland Park up in Virginia, down these mountain roads and the Blue Ridge Parkway to Highland Bruin in Asheville. It's 210 miles, and it's a relay.
Okay.
And I was on a 6-man team, so going in, I knew I was going to have to cover 30 miles over 36 hours.
Yes.
It was going to be 6 legs. Well, the day before, our team captain, his wife had a miscarriage, and so we were a 5-man team. So we were calling everybody, like, man, can you get away this weekend? They're like, no, not on a half day's notice.
No.
Right.
So, not for that many miles.
Oh, yeah. Right. So we met at Chris's restaurant. We were all packed, ready to go. We laid out the legs, and so I assembled my second leg. My first leg was 7.5 miles. My second leg was a combination of 3 legs. So we took a 2.3, a 3.2, and a 5-mile leg. So I did 17.5 miles. 17.5 miles before lunch. And I was like, I didn't feel bad. I was like, I feel pretty good, you know? But a buddy of mine from Greenville who was also running the race, he goes, I can see that pain face. And I said, what do you mean pain face? He goes, you got the face of somebody who looks like they just went through a grueling and they're in pain. And he was right. It was hot. It was hot for the mountains. It was hot that day. And I remember running around the road. I was running down the road, and the road was kind of angled. Yeah. And I was begging for a flat spot. Just give me a flat spot. And, you know, one of the books I'd read just before I did all this was David Goggins.
Oh, yeah.
Can't Hurt Me.
Can't Hurt Me, yep.
And that just kept resonating in my head, man. I got to get through this. I got to get through this. I got to get through this. So, yeah, that's a little bit about me. We got 2 kids. My son is 22 today, so happy birthday, Connor.
Happy birthday, shout out.
And my daughter's 19, and both of them are in management positions in a restaurant in downtown. And
that's
they're
great.
students at Cape Fear, and they're just, you know, my son graduated 2020 COVID year.
Ooh.
So so they're just like, you know what? We got to own what we can do. And so during COVID, they both went to work and made money.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah.
That's really good.
You see all these help wanted signs, and I'm just thankful my kids have a good work ethic, you know?
Yes.
Exactly. So my main question that I wanted to ask you, you kind of touched on a little bit. So after your first run, you decided to go back into it again and go for a second. What made you decide, hey, you know what, this is too important to give up?
So on election night, as the results came in, as they were coming in, I was sitting there with my wife, my sister, and one of my best friends, and I said, you know what? This was not a terrible experience. And my wife says, you know what? It was a great experience. We've had a great time getting to know people, developing new friends and all this other stuff. It was a great time. And as the results finally came in, it was obvious I was not going to win. I had people came running to me, tears in their eyes, like, please run again. And somebody asked me to be chairman of the party, and we're like, you're crazy. It's crazy enough to run for office. Try to herd cats on a party leadership level. I was like, no way. Yeah. And I just told everybody, and I was like, listen, give us a year. And so we took 6 months, and it was time for the city council to file. And I said to my wife, I said, listen, I think if we're going to announce, we should announce now. Get it out of the way, and then get out of the way of the city council candidates. And so I announced a week before city council filing, and it was off to the races. And I mean, I've got, you know, all my same supporters coming back. I had a lot of people tell me, you know, I wanted to vote for you, but I wasn't in your district.
Right.
And so it was only 17 precincts. My opponent spent $305,000 against me. 17 precincts.
Wow.
I mean, it's just crazy. And so we agreed we're after it. And, you know, last week I had 2 events. One of them was here. So it's the second time on the stage at Azalea Station in 10 days.
Yeah.
So for those who don't traditionally know or like pay attention to politics, but realize that this is a year where there's a lot of politicking going on, what are you running for officially?
So I'm running for the New Hanover County Board of Commissioners. So there's 5 commissioners.
Okay.
And so they're 4-year terms. And so on this cycle, 3 seats are up.
Oh.
And so in 22, there was 2 seats up. Mm-hmm. And in 2020, I suspect our turnout's going to be similar to 2020. And so these numbers are kind of relevant, right? Mm-hmm. So there were 123,000 votes cast in 2020. The top vote getter in the county commission race was Bill Ravenbark with 63,000 votes. So one out of every 2 voters
voted for him.
Right.
Yep.
He's up. Jane Scalise is up. He filled in for Deb Butler when she passed away.
Okay. Yeah.
And then Jonathan Barfield, who's been there for 16 years. Mr. Barfield came in third place in 2020, and he only beat the fourth place, which was also an incumbent, by about 450 votes. So I feel like there's an opportunity here.
Yes.
But, you got to be careful to make sure you raise enough money and make sure you're doing enough different mixed messaging, mixed media marketing. You got to be everywhere. I don't think I'm going to do TV. TV is really expensive, and it's going to be really hard to get the slots because you got the presidential race, you got the governor's race, 10 council of state races, and those council of state races, it's when they come to Wilmington, they're looking to glom onto one of us. They're like, we want to go to your event,
right?
Because they're going to be help. They're going to. It's who really wants to cross town after work to meet a auditor candidate or a commissioner of labor or
Most people probably don't even recognize the name.
Secretary of Agriculture. And you're going to have a hard time in downtown Wilmington attracting voters to hear the Department of Agriculture.
Right.
So there's going to be those guys will be raising a lot of money, and they'll be spending a lot of it on TV and maybe radio and billboards. We'll be doing digital. We'll be doing some mailers, texting. I may have some billboards. I may have some radio. But you probably won't see my stuff on TV. You'll see my videos on socials. Though.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, so the reason I asked this is because, in general, I don't think people realize how many different offices there are that are going up for election this year.
Yeah.
And I mean, just across the board, because everyone's like, oh, well, there's a city council and there's a mayor. And they don't realize that, there's a county commissioners, there's, all these different boards.
School board.
Yeah. So that's why I was like, hey, just shout out what you're going for. So we can at least let people know, this is what you're going.
Yeah, and the way North Carolina is set up is we're in a perpetual election cycle. City municipals are typically on the odd years, and then your presidential and midterms include your county, school board, your sheriff, your judges.
Yeah.
And so there'll be a handful of judges on the ballot too. We had a meeting yesterday, and I said, part of the messaging of the party, the local party, needs to be to tell people to turn the ballot over when they first get it. Start on the back and start at the bottom, because the school board's probably going to be on the bottom, and the county commission is going to be right above them, and the register of deeds is going to be there. And those three offices are critically important. Your county handles so much. I mean, Health and Human Services, the health department, they fund the sheriff, they fund our schools, and we've got serious overcrowding in our schools right now, so we've got to address that. But they handle development in the unincorporated area, which also happens to be some of our most ecologically fragile areas.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah, so we got to be very, these are. I said to a group 2 weeks ago, if you don't do politics, politics will do you.
Oh,
that's true.
And
that's a good way of putting it.
Yeah. So it's important that people pay attention, get educated. And, the Business Journal does a great event every year, the Power Breakfast. And so then all the other media groups do forums. And so you can get to it online through YouTube or the news sites. But I encourage people to, if you see a meet and greet in your neighborhood, go.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm doing a meet and greet. This may not air by then, but June 20th.
We can make sure it's up by then.
I'm doing a meet and greet at the Triangle Lounge.
Oh, okay. There you go. Yeah. That's the way they meet the real people.
Yeah, it's a blue collar vote, and it's important. And you got to meet the voters where they are.
Yes.
And that's the biggest lesson I learned in 2022. I can't expect them to come to me. We put together a couple of luncheons, and we're like, okay, you guys need to leave work early for lunch. Spend about 90 minutes with me, write me a check, and then get back to work. And it's to me, I don't think that's fair. Yeah. And you end up filling the room anyway with people who are retired, and it's you got to meet voters where they are.
Yeah.
Right.
So. And I mean, especially with this county, with how many young people. Well, we have a lot of retired people who are leaving the northern states, but we also have a lot of younger demographics who are like, hey, I make a lot of money. I don't want to live in one of these northern states or western state, but they want to move here. Being able to meet them in the field, like you said, Triangle Lounge is a great spot. Just meeting people out in the real world.
And a lot of the business owners are leery about it. They're like, when I ran in 2022, I called Shane at End of Days and said, hey, can we do a little meet and greet? And he said, sure. And so I pulled a couple of signs out, and we heard a little bit of, I don't want this place to get political. And one of my supporters, so sharp, the line was backed up like sometimes it does, almost to the door. He laid his credit card up on the bar, and he told the bartenders, he goes, "I'm buying all these people's drinks."
Wow.
And everybody was like happy again.
Yeah.
It's like,
that made
you
it
buy me
easy.
a drink, I'll take it.
And then another donor went out to the food truck and said, "Give me 4 orders of wings, 4 orders of this, and 4 orders of that." I mean, and spent $75 with the food. So suddenly now everybody's happy, and it turned out great. And so, message to business owners: if a candidate's asking for permission, just clarify this is not a rally; it's a meet and greet.
Yes.
It's an opportunity for a candidate to meet the voters where they are, it's typically it's handshakes and hugs and high fives, and then about the middle of the window of time, we'll say, "Hey, gather around. John's going to say a few things, and then I'll talk a little bit about my platform, my vision." And so do that, and everybody seems to like it.
Nice.
Yeah,
It's very open-minded, I think, and that's where everyone should go to. Is like, hey, it's not we're showing up for a rally, we're showing up for this specific person. I think we all should be more open-minded and just get to know everybody.
Yeah, we had one here last week, and Christina, who works in the facility, was our hostess, and
she was on the podcast before too.
Okay, good. And so incredibly gracious, and she brought this catering, and we had a good crowd, and it's just a lot more work that way. And if you say, "Hey, just show up to a watering hole or a restaurant after work, and we'll introduce you to the candidate, and you can ask him all the questions you want." And sometimes you do get pinned down on really people are really their life is being impacted. Their neighborhood's being impacted, and they want to know what you're going to do about it. I mean, the people who live adjacent to river lights, and if you haven't driven down River Road in a while,
that's a crazy set of neighborhoods right now.
Oh man, they're complaining about it. It's like, yeah, but they voluntarily annexed in the city, and the city gave them the zoning they wanted. And then the DOT said, "You're going to relocate the road and pay for it? Like, go for it." I mean,
Okay,
Have at it.
you're gonna pay for it.
and it's the most beautiful section of road. I mean, there are areas where they're proposing new roads. DOT is to look just like that. Sidewalk on one side, multi-use path on another.
Smart.
Median down the middle, one lane either direction, constant flowing roundabouts.
Yeah.
I mean, it's gonna hopefully improve congestion.
I feel like that's very, like, if more of the outskirts of Wilmington were like that, it would be a lot smoother. Because I know a lot of times, like, bike paths and multi-use paths are, like, hindered. And if we have that option, we have more accessibility.
Yeah, in the next 18 months, you're going to see tremendous improvement. You'll be able to take a multi-use path from the North Chase Library they're building right now.
Oh, yeah. I drive past
You'll be able to go down to Gordon Road. Gordon Road's being widened with a multi-use path.
Yep.
Right.
Through the park. You'll be able to take the military cutoff down to the beach.
Yep.
Or you'll be able to go to the Porter's Neck Walmart.
Oh wow.
Oh.
And you'll be able to go down Middle Sound. Ultimately, probably a decade or two down the road, you'll be able to get all the way around Middle Sound Loop. But then through that trail, then you can go to the Cross City Trail. So you can go. So I told my sister, she lives in North Chase. I was like, you need to buy an e-bike.
Yeah.
Throw your Tommy Bahama chair on your back with a little cooler full of stuff, and then head to the beach. You can go to the beach. You don't have to pay to park.
Right.
You go, and so then they're going to tie in to where the old fairgrounds is on Carolina Beach Road.
Yeah.
So that path is going to go all the way around Monkey Junction back to the library.
Oh geez.
And then they're going to go down Pioneer Road to Masonboro Loop, and they'll stop right there at Whiskey Creek where the bridge is.
Yeah.
It trails in, and the city's path is going to come to that point. And so whenever the DOT comes in and rebuilds that bridge, they'll connect the path.
Oh wow.
And so all that's going to happen in the next 18 months or so.
That's incredible.
Nice.
Yeah, so folks, save up, get your e-bikes, or your powered your one wheels, or your powered skateboards.
Yeah.
My office is near the university. I see everything that's self-powered and propelled, and
I'm sure. Yeah.
it's wild trying to get out of my office because you got to really like, okay, what's he riding and how fast is he going? Because sometimes they go faster than cars.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's crazy.
So we'd like to do the series that kind of what you're on right now too is called the People Over Politics series. And basically what we're doing is not getting into the weeds of actual policies, but talk about the people, which you've done a good job, I feel like. Yeah. But the one thing we like to let people know too is, especially for people that are running, what does the county commissioner actually cover? Because I feel like people vote along either party lines or whatever they decide that has nothing to do with actually what you guys can actually change. So what can the county commissioners actually influence?
Yeah, so there's the theory is that 35 to 40% vote Republican, 30-40% vote Democrat, and then that middle.
Right.
They're the ticket splitters. And I've seen polling that shows conservatives in rural parts of North Carolina are pulling for Trump and Josh Stein.
Yeah.
And so it's an interesting dynamic. North Carolina has always had people who split the ticket. And they would vote for Jim Hunt for governor and Jesse Helms for senator back in the day. I mean, it was just the way our state is. So the county commissioners largely cover the unincorporated part of the county. So our county is bisected by the city of Wilmington.
Right.
But the county funds school property, maintenance, repairs, and they build schools. They run the health department. They provide for the sheriff and the fire, county fire. One thing the county does not do that people who are upset about congestion and traffic is the county doesn't own any roads.
Interesting.
They don't build roads. The county also kind of plays a big role in economic development. Interestingly enough, right now they've got a project called The Last Frontier. And the county, not CFPU aid, but the county is running water and sewer up Blue Clay, Sidbury, Holly Shelter Road, and then they've got this other road called Plantation Road, and that's going to connect Murrayville to Porter's Neck Road, and that's about 900 acres of undeveloped. I think we really need to press pause on that one. 900 acres. The area bounded by I-140 North College Market, Gordon, there's over 8,000 homes right there right now, and there's 900 plus acres just sitting there ready for it, and all the schools that service that area are full. You know, we just got to be. We need to. In my eyes, we need to paint a vision for that. We need to plan for it. Yeah. We need to define what kind of a public needs we have. But so, Department of Health and Human Services, the people who said, you got to wear a mask. They fund, like I said, they fund schools. We also supplement the school board operations so that they can fund teachers. So that our teachers are like the second highest paid in the state of North Carolina. We're still abysmally low in the state, but our county really steps up. So between operations is like about $5,500 per student that the county commissions funds for students. So supplementing the state funding.
Right.
And so they do land use in the unincorporated area. So planning, zoning.
Right.
So we touch every aspect of your life.
Yeah, it's a lot.
Yeah, it is. And it's a small board. It's 5 people.
Mm-hmm.
So
like you have a lot.
Sure, a large staff, I'd hope.
Yeah, and they're one of the county government is one of the largest employers in town in southeastern North Carolina. So one of the largest employers.
Wow.
So
very good.
Yeah, they have. I've had developers tell me, I'm a broker, so I've had developers tell me that they feel like the customer service at the county is better than the city, and I don't know. I always have good experience with both of them, so I don't know what that's about. I don't know if it's the right planner or whoever they're dealing with.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But yeah, it's a little bit of everything. So
nice,
good to know.
Yeah.
So in the grand scheme of things, what would success look like for you? Like if you got the gig, what would you deem successful during your term? So
one of the things that I'm really passionate about is startups, and so about every year I do one deal with a startup, and these guys are these entrepreneurs are just fascinating. They have a weird look in their eye. They're crazy. They call it crazy eye. I've been working with David Reeser, who's the CEO of Opioid.
Okay.
Oh yeah.
And so
Great
Wilmington is one of, if not the highest rate of opioid overdoses per capita in the country. Like we're number one. And the fact that he started his company here and he really is passionate about staying here. I think it was Denmark offered him a building and startup money and said, we want you to move your company here. We need your help.
Wow.
The state of Alaska, he's already opened an office in Alaska. The state of Alaska is funding him. And because of the cultural nuances of Alaska, he's having to hire Alaskans.
Oh, yeah.
That makes sense.
And he's got to deal with Samsung smartwatches
Oh, no way.
to track the biomarkers of when they either feel like a need, desire, or they actually use. And it sends the data to the medical team.
Oh, that's
and so,
crazy.
Yeah,
so I actually met him years ago when I talked about this on a few episodes ago at 1 Million Cups at the CIE building at UNCW. Yeah. And he was talking about his like dream, what he was putting forward. And he was like, I would love a smartwatch that said this. So I didn't even know.
Yeah, so he's got to deal with Samsung.
Really cool.
Yeah, it's really cool. And so, he's really passionate about like planting a tent pole. And then, as he grows, he supports other entrepreneurs to come in under his tent pole and let them share office space. And so his data scientist starting pay, $107,000.
Wow.
What kind of college degree would you recommend for that, David? He goes, I don't care about a degree. I care about skills. Yeah. So can we reverse engineer that? Can we build a curriculum starting in the 8th grade that these kids can learn those skills so that by the time they're in 10th, 11th grade, they can take a summer internship making real money.
Yeah.
Making real money, not restaurant or fast food money, but real money. And so when they walk across the stage at graduation, they've still got a hand free. They got their diploma in one hand, and we could line up the employers to put job offers in their hands. And you would, if we did this right, we could end the cycle of generational poverty in our inner city. And then I'd love to see us do that with Encino and all these other companies that have specific skill sets. We already are doing this for GE. They need machinists, and Cape Fear Community College has a machining program. Just plug it, and their nuclear plant, all that nuclear energy stuff they're doing, they have a program. 60 kids at a time can take it, and they come off and they've got a job paying them, as long as they commit to 5 years, $60,000 to $80,000 a year right out of community college. I mean, so that to me is the transfer. That to me is the thing that I think we can really make a huge change. I think asking a lot more harder questions. I don't work on the development side. I sell stuff sometimes that a developer will come and develop, and our codes only require a 25-year storm water pond. Yeah, and I say, listen, I represent the seller, but I know what the neighborhoods can come out and say. I'd encourage you to maybe a 50-year pond. He goes, why? Well, the code says I don't have to do 25. Yeah, but do a little more. Yes. And let's eliminate the objection. We know the objection is going to be density, it's going to be stormwater, it's going to be traffic, so and the green space. And so maybe a playground, build an amenity center, a green space. Like it's not hard to easily overcome the objections. This is why, as a realtor, we tell people to hire a realtor because they've got the local knowledge, they got the history, they kind of know where the landmines are.
Exactly, yeah.
Nice.
That's smart too. And just kind of the forward thinking part of it. I don't think a lot of people think about that. They're like, how can I make this dollar now, or how can I get out or into this right now? And just thinking like, hey, how is this going to affect me 20 years down the road? Or maybe even more importantly, how is this going to affect my grandkids?
Yeah. So for the last 5 years, one of I don't want to call it a niche, but I've sold 3, the nuisance hotels along Market Street. We've been identifying people for adaptive reuse. And so the first one we sold went to weekly rentals. And so he's getting a bunch of construction workers. The second one we sold is now called Vivo.
Yeah, just saw that.
They've got 20% of the units are workforce housing. So the people who make 80% of the area median income. And because it had the reputation and the nuisance, if you get back in there, everything was remodeled after Florence. It's got a beautiful kidney-shaped pool. They turned the old restaurant space into a co-working area.
Oh, no way.
And they've got a fitness center that rivals any gym in town. And they pulled one bed out. They made room for a small kitchenette on a 7-foot wall. It's got a 2-eye burner, a sink, base cabinet, overhead cabinets, microwave, put a refrigerator over there. They partially closed off where the vanity was so they could put a closet in. Oh, wow. And it's the market rent, I think, is $750, $150 for utilities, and then $150 if you want the entertainment and internet package.
Oh, wow.
And so, upwardly mobile, young professional. But interesting enough, they've got these all across the country. Their leading demographic are empty nesters. And think about an empty nester up north, like you were talking about. Yeah. They come down here and they can't find a house because we're really short right now. We have a shortage. So they say, okay, buy a lot, hire a builder. It's going to take a year. I'll throw everything in storage. I'll live here in this converted hotel, and I'll have access to everything in the community. Yeah. And most of these hotels are within walking distance to either Target or Walmart or Food Line. I mean, they're walking distance. And so we've done two of the hotels we've done have workforce housing units in them. And so that's something I'm also passionate about. I think the city's got a great policy for encouraging workforce housing. And so that's something I'm kind of looking at. Like we need to really promote that. You talked about young people.
Yes.
Dr. Gatabi from UCW. Have y'all had him on?
No, we probably should, yeah.
Yeah, make sure you give him the ability to put the PowerPoint up because he has the graphics. Wilmington for 3 years in a row, the number 10 destination for the domestic migration of millennials aged 25 to 39.
Wow.
And so we've had last 5 years, New Hanover County has averaged more deaths than births.
Jeez.
So without inbound migration, we're going the wrong way.
Yes.
And so millennials are baby makers, man. We got to encourage them. You know, we need to encourage them to keep coming. And then, you know, this is why we have to address the performance in our schools, which as a county commissioner, I can't do anything about other than help policy with the school board, support them. But I can help with the overcrowding issue. And they are really fired up about the overcrowding issue because they've got, I think Porter's Neck Elementary is in its third year, and they're at 145% occupancy.
Yeah.
Wow.
All these elementary schools are so maxed out.
Yeah.
Which is ridiculous.
And some of them are so old. I mean, like Pine Valley and Alderman that, you know, and the plan is on paper, it's not funded, but on paper is to tear those schools down and rebuild them. But you can't do all of them at once. You got to do because those kids have got to go somewhere else.
Yep. So you got to build another school.
You got to build a school.
Transition them somewhere.
Yeah, build a school, move those kids over, then build that school, and then move their kids back, and you know, it's Rob Peter, Pay Paul. Yeah, a lot of moving parts, but you know, we've got land set aside. And the River Lights community includes a site for a school. The C-Tech campus has room for a 1,000-person middle school, and so if you build C-Tech at a middle school for 1,000 people, then you can relocate Trask Middle School, and then let Laney kind of take a breath and shift over, and just expand onto that campus. And then they will go from overcapacity to capacity. So there's still work to be done. But yeah, I think those are some things that I really success for me. It's like get the gig, man. Let's do workforce housing. Let's reverse engineer the skills gap we need for these companies. Because Chip Mahon with Live Oak, he's got a Gulfstream, and Chip, why'd you buy this plane? He goes, because I can get to San Francisco in one tank of fuel, and I can pick up my people.
Yes.
Bring their family, bring them back, show them what Wilmington's got to offer. Yeah. And then I can take them home. And it's just, that's why I bought the plane. It means
exactly. Yeah.
That's a mad flex, isn't it?
Exactly.
Yeah. I like that.
Well, since we were looking forward, let's look back real quick. So if you were to tell your younger self one thing, what would it be?
Get married earlier.
Yeah.
I dated my wife for a while, have more kids. We actually said that. I actually said that at Thanksgiving dinner this year. If I had it all, I've got friends with 3 and 4 kids, and I'm like, how do you do it? But they have this joy on their face. Yeah. I mean, and I wish I had gotten married earlier, and I wish I had more kids. I wish I had bought more property. I've been in the same house for 24 years, and you know, it's truly a part of me. You know, my wife and I was like, yeah, we should sell and move down the water, and she goes, I'd be really emotional, and I was like, thought about it, thinking I probably would be too. Yeah. You know, I put a lot of blood, sweat, and tears. I GC'd the thing myself.
Oh, wow.
I've done that bathroom 3 times. But yeah, I think that would, get married earlier, have more kids, and take a little bit more risk.
Yeah, that's great. I love it.
Yeah. So this month's theme is shout out to all the spouses.
Yeah. My wife's in the audience now, too.
Yes.
It's just cool that you guys are doing an audience, too.
Yes. Yeah, my wife was here earlier.
And it's fun to have the guests coming in, being able to watch the previous one, too, because that was one thing you didn't get in the studio. Yes. You didn't kind of get the interaction. So it's fun.
Well, my last legitimate question, where can people follow your journey or support you?
Sure. On socials, it's just my name, John Hinnant, one word. I do have a campaign Facebook page called Elect John Hinnant. Mm-hmm. I do Facebook, Instagram, X, formerly known as Twitter. I'm on Nextdoor, so most of you don't have to be.
Okay.
And you can go to my website, electjohnhinnant.com. And I'll put a plug in for the GOP, newhanovergop.org. They have an events calendar. So when like I'm having this event at the Triangle Lounge, it'll be posted and advertised on there. And so when we do events that are kind of public facing, we just put it out there, let anybody show up. Like we did this event we did here last week. When I'm in someone's home, so if you were to have me at your home for a meet and greet and you brought your neighbors over, that's on you to market it. I'm not. I don't want to put that out there. It's your house.
Right. Yeah, like I don't want people showing up at my house unless I know them.
Especially protesters, right?
Yes.
So
right.
I haven't had that happen yet. I've had somewhere in one of the Republican school board members got confronted by somebody, and I was like, "Hey, nice to meet you, man. I'm gonna move on." But yeah, so electjohnhinnant.com, and then on the socials, it's just my name, John Hinnant. So,
nice.
Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you so much for coming on. I greatly appreciate it.
Thank you, and thank you for the drink. This is great.
Of course. Like you said, shout out to Station and Alcove Beer Garden.
Yep.
For those who are watching the YouTube channel, like, comment, share, subscribe. Jennifer, definitely post this in your socials. This is a great
event center if you need a venue for 100 people.
Exactly.
I mean, let's plug it up because this. This is a hidden gem.
For those who don't know, we are doing live episodes first Sunday of every month from about 1:30 to 6. Come out. We'll have a specialty cocktail for the month that you guys can check out, try out. You can meet other people who like the podcast. You can meet some of the guests who've been on here and ask fun questions. But hopefully we'll catch you guys in the next one. And if you haven't, leave us a 5-star review. We always love those. It boosts us up the algorithm, and it will definitely help when AI takes over the world.
You got that right. Cheers.
Goodbye.